this episode is for all of my multi-passionate, my multi-hyphenates out there. Joining me today is Lynne Stokes. She is a brand strategist and storyteller. And she is going to be talking with me about finding clarity on your one thing while embracing your passion. So, like I said, my multi-hyphenates, you want to be paying attention to this episode. But before we get into it, I must give Lynne a moment to shine. Tell us more about yourself, anything you'd like us to know. And thank you so much for being here with me today. Take it away.
Thank you, CJ. I appreciate this opportunity to share a little bit about myself. And as you mentioned, my name is Lynn. I'm actually based in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I have had a corporate career of over 20 years in brand management and marketing strategy, and have really taken that experience and decided about 3 years ago to take that corporate experience of writing stories for brands that people knew and love. I worked at Ford Motor Company. I worked for PepsiCo. I worked for Disney World, Publix supermarkets in the Southeast. And my final corporate experience was at Krispy Kreme, the donuts. So I had the pleasure and the honor of working for some of America and, dare I say, the world's best loved brands, and came to a point right after the pandemic where I just wasn't feeling it anymore. You know, a lot of people called 2021 the year of the great resignation. I tend to think of it more as the year of the great reevaluation. And a lot of people were really reevaluating, what am I doing? Am I doing things that really fill my cup? And after having a corporate career, and I'm sure your audience can relate, where, you know, you have to work twice as hard to get half as far, the glass ceiling is real, and you just come home and you're tired. And that happened to me. And so I opted out of corporate and resigned in October of 2021 to go home to be on my sofa. I really didn't have a plan. I know you talk a lot about side hustles, and looking back, I wish that maybe I had one, but I just left and was like, I'm going home to sit on my sofa and think about what I want to do. And that sofa time lasted about 3 months. And then I took an entrepreneur course, and I said, oh, maybe this is something that I can do. And all the women that I was talking to during that time, they were all like, I wish I could leave my job. There is this dream that I have. One day, maybe I'll get to it. And you know that story. We all have heard that story if we haven't said it ourselves. And so I started at that point. I said, well, maybe I can take my experience of writing brand strategies and stories about these brands to help midlife professional women tell their brand story and make sense out of their life experience, and have this brand story be the path to their dreams. And so that's what I do. I work with professional women who have 20, 30 years of adulting experience and know that there is something else that they want to do, but don't quite know, how do I take the pieces of my story and put them together to build a personal brand or a business brand so that I can quench that thirst for a more meaningful and satisfying life. And I use that word quench because my other plot twist to my brand story is that I'm a mixologist. And I went to bartending school in my late 40s. And so in addition to coaching, I also do team building and exercises and group activities using mixology as a teaching aid. So that's my story. I'm a coach, I'm a brand strategist, I'm a storyteller, and I'm also a mixologist.
I love it. So you get what it means to be multi-hyphenate, as they like to refer to it, because I got a few things going as well. But so in you talking to and coaching and guiding these women through identifying and really honing in on their brand, what was the one thing or pattern you felt like came up that this conversation was necessary to really kind of find clarity on your one thing while embracing your passions? Did the woman come in either very scattered, very lost, very confused, very excited, very ignited, and then things plateau? Like what has been the pattern when you work with these women?
Well, I'll start with, there usually is a catalyst for somebody to bring. So I worked with quite a few women who have been downsized, and a lot of them, they didn't see it coming. And so they kind of have gotten to this place where they got comfortable in their careers, or their career was their plan A and plan only. And then something happened. So a lot of times it's either the downsizing, or they got to the place where it was just too toxic and I can't do this anymore.
Okay.
And then they kind of come with this, I don't know what to do now. I know I don't want to do this. I can't do this. I'm not sure I want to go back into a job, but I want to change careers. They know that there's something that happens at this inflection point that is like, okay, before I just turn around and go find a job doing the same thing that I was doing that I didn't really like, let me spend some time talking to somebody to see if we can figure it out. So most of the women, and the first two parts of my framework are about clarity and confidence.
Okay.
And what I've really found out is that people don't necessarily have a clarity problem. It's more of a confidence problem.
Right.
Because the clarity is that there usually is 1, 2, 3 things that they're passionate about, they know, they love, that's what they've been doing for 5, 10 years, or since they were a little girl, they've been thinking about it. It really becomes more of this issue of confidence, because a lot of times those things in their clarity pot some of them are not the thing that they are known for, or the thing that they've done in their work. So I'm an accountant, and that's what everybody knows. But I also love gardening, and I love cooking, and I'm redoing my house. But I've never redone a house. How can I talk to anybody about doing that? How can I go into the space of renovation when I don't have an experience and everybody knows me as an accountant? And so those are really the places that we work with, is like, really getting that clarity on what your top 1, 2, or 3, because I don't necessarily think you have to have one thing, speaking to the fact of us talking about being multi-hyphenate. But you do have to have the confidence in those things that you're doing, and the things that you're talking, and the things that you're going to be building your brand on. And there really should be one thing that kind of ties them all together. Right. So that's where the one thing comes in, and becoming confident about that one thing allows you to open up the world and go full steam ahead on all those things that fill you up and bring you passion.
Yeah. And I love that you touched on that, because a lot of times we think we're looking, we still do need clarity. Hey, I need clarity right now. But it is the confidence thing, because one of the things I always hear from my clients is, as you just pointed out, is, well, I'm not an expert in this. Like, how is anybody going to hire me? And how am I going to find clients? But you want to do this thing. You're here in front of me because something has ignited in you. You have this passion. You want to follow through on it. So let's work on that. Let's work on building that confidence so that you can show up consistently to attract those clients. So it is true that it's a confidence thing, especially with women, where they have the one story, the one path. They've been an employee for however long they've been, most of their adult life, if not all of it. Right. And now they want to shift. Okay, talk on it. I feel like there's things you want to say. I want you to say them. Go for it, Lynn.
Well, the one thing I wanted to say, because I heard this several years ago in a podcast, as far as this whole thing about the expert, is that you really only need to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of somebody else.
Yes.
Oh my! And when I heard that, it was like lights on, because the issue and where we get caught up is that whatever your thing is, let's say it's baking. If you're on social media, you are following bakers that have trained in Europe, that are French pastry makers. You're tasting and you're following people that on the scale of 1 to 10 are a 10. And you're sitting here at a 3, and you're like, I could never go out there because look at that. But the issue is, there is a whole group of 1s and 2s that would love to be following you at your 3 level. And we get in our head because we're following the experts. We're following the people that have made it. And of course, that thing that they always say, we're comparing our day 1 to their, year 5.
Yeah, exactly.
And we come up. So that's one thing that I really want to say from that confidence thing, is that, take a step back and evaluate on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? And if you're anywhere at 1+, there is somebody one step behind you. There are people at level 0 or level 0.5 that will tune in to what you're saying because you know more than they do. And as you go on the journey, you're not going to stay at level 1 forever, because really the more you talk about it, the more that you post about it, the more that you speak on it, your skill set, your confidence level will increase, and you'll be taking people along with you. So that's the one thing, is that, don't compare your day 1 to someone else's year 5.
Yeah. I like how you say it, day 1 to year 5. I usually say, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10, because it happens, especially with this access to social media. And like you said, they're following the people that they emulate, essentially. They're looking up to them. They want to be like them, when you really you want to be yourself and take up your own little corner in this whole world of, we're going to go with that example of baking. You have your specialty, so focus on that. There are people that admire what you do, and they'll want to first of all learn more from you and probably buy your baked goods, right?
Right.
And so another question. Now I'm just curious, coach to coach type thing. So you're helping someone build their confidence. Clarity usually is there, but clarity and confidence, we'll say. But they're multi-passionate. They got a bunch of stuff going on. I always see this with my clients, especially when they realize, they're in the mundane 9 to 5, where they feel like they're in this box. Sometimes it's literal, because they're in a cubicle, like I was. And they might want to start with one thing, but they don't necessarily see it through. They want to go on to the next thing, and it's just like they're just really, really scattered. And those are usually the clients I would just want to grab them and say, okay, we got to sit down for a second here. You got to see something through. But where do you think that usually comes from, when they're using almost being multi-passionate as like a crutch, because they haven't found the one thing, or they haven't decided on the one thing? So they're like, okay, well, this thing didn't work, but you only did it for a few months. So you didn't generate the leads. You didn't get the clients. You didn't really see it through. Now you want to bounce and try something else. Or you're working on that one particular offer, but you don't know who to speak to. And it's, I think you know where I'm going with this.
Right. I think you said, if this was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Yes.
So that's the first thing. And so I think you definitely have to do your homework about your things. And like, I go through an exercise, and I actually have on my website like 101 thought starters, personal brand thought starters, which is just a list of things that you're interested in. And I kind of go through this exercise, like, check everything that you're interested in on this list. Okay, now go back and take the 10. Okay, now go back and take 7. Now go back and take 3. And so you have to kind of, and I think sometimes we got to take the pressure off of finding the one thing when you're multi-passionate. But you do need to get about 3. Getting 4 is a little bit of time, but you got to figure out, especially if you're talking about building a business, or from a corporate standpoint, your personal brand and what you want to be known for. I think that 3 usually feels like 2 or 3 is a good number, as far as these are the things I'm going to concentrate on. And really, one of them should be in that 60 to 70% mark. I think the reason that a lot of times we don't stay committed to that one thing is because we feel like we have to go all in on that one thing, and we don't give ourselves permission to spend a little bit of time of feeding thing 2 and thing 3. And what that could look like, I'm just using from standpoint, because I'm big on posting, on building your brand out loud like you do on social media. And what that could look like is that, if this goes back to our accountant, you're going to spend 60% of your post and your time on social media talking about accountancy. But then when it comes Friday is going to be the baked good of the week. And every Friday, you're going to show your cake that you're doing or whatever, but you're not selling the cake. You're still got this offer on the accountant side, but you're just, and that feeds it, because you're going to get some engagement from people on the accounting. Or Saturday, this is what I'm going to be doing with my new house on Saturday. And I find that when you put all your eggs in that one basket, that's when people start getting scattered and doing, all the things. But if you kind of take 60 or 70% that this is really what I'm going to build my brand on, but I'm also going to allow myself to have opportunities to share these other things, then you've kind of got a couple of plates going. And you can kind of play with the levers, because if you give that accountancy all that you have, and 6 months later it's not doing something, but you see that people are really responding to these baked goods, well, then maybe you dial up the baked goods and you can dial it down. But at least then it's not that you're stopping cold turkey on the accountant and then picking up the baking. So that's why I kind of like that. Even if you're multi-hyphenate, pick 2 or 3 and feed them. But the one common theme, and this is where the homework is you got to find what is that brand umbrella. That's what I call it. Yeah. And what is that common theme? And that brand umbrella is a noun or an adjective, a short word or phrase that goes through all of that. So if I'm an accountant that bakes and is fixing up my house, my brand might be known for detailed and checklist. And so when I'm talking about accountancy, I'm going to be like, here are the 5 books you need to read about being an accountant. When I talk about baked goods, I'm going to be like, here are the baked goods, here are the gadgets that I have. Here are the top 10 gadgets that every baker should have. And when I talk about doing the house, I was like, here's my shopping list when I go to the home improvement store. And if you take the same approach, then you're going to be not necessarily known as the accountant who's doing over her house, who's baking, but you're going to be known as, this is the person that is going to give me a checklist, that is going to be detailed, that is going to be organized. So whatever she touches, I know that I can expect that from her. And that's what I really kind of coach my clients is on. Right. What is your one thing as far as that brand umbrella that gives you permission to bake, to be an accountant, to be a photographer? Is that whatever I do, you can expect me to do it in this way. This is how I'm going to show up no matter what it is I do.
Yeah. I know as you're talking, there are some clients I'm currently working with that struggle with finding the one thing. And that's why I said using being multi-passionate, it could be a stall tactic as well, but using being multi-passionate as a crutch, just because they haven't really figured out, but there are things about them that people know about them, or there might be a pattern in their 3 things, right? That they can say, all right, as you put it, here's my brand umbrella. This is what I want people to know about me and know me for. And I'm going to do the one thing and it makes sense. And I'm going to do this and it also makes sense, right? So I love how you're kind of breaking it down. And I almost I have clients and I'm like, you're going to have to listen to this episode and hear exactly what Lynn is saying, because this is what we've been talking about. This is exactly the thing you've been struggling with. And it's also like we touched on coming from a space where there's structure and there's certain expectations and you have, this is your role and this is what you're supposed to do and this is who you hand it off to and this is how much time is needed for so-and-so, that you said, give yourself the permission. This is you. This is your space. Right? You're not at work. You're not talking about work. Right?
But we've been conditioned to live in that structure. And when you're in work, it is very few things that you do by yourself. There is a team of people behind. And so that's what I was getting ready to say as far as your client structure. It is amazing how it is so hard. You can see what their one thing is, but they just can't commit to it. We are so scared to commit to that one thing. And it's kind of like you're committing. You do have the right to change your mind.
Thank you.
But you do need to see it through. We can't be changing our mind every week.
Not 2 months. Oh, you said week. No. I was a couple months, and I was like, come on, you're just getting started. Yeah, but you got to start too.
But work conditions us that there's a project plan. There are 10 people on the team. This is my part. I'm just the screwdriver. I just screw in the screw every day, and then the next person picks it up. But when you're building your own thing, the exciting and scary part is that it's all on you. Mm-hmm. You don't have to answer. I mean, the people you answer to is your audience. and they will let you know. I mean, if you put something out there and it's crickets, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. I mean, all information, all feedback is good feedback.
Right.
That either means that you need to tweak what you're offering or you're not offering it to the right group of people.
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a bad idea. I've been a marketer for 25 years.
Yeah.
I believe there is a market and there is somebody for everybody. You know, I mean, there is something for everybody. There is an audience for whatever it is. Now, your audience might be small. Your audience might be on the other side of the world, but there is somebody who wants, dare I say, needs what you have. And that's what, for all of the people listening in your audience, whatever that dream is, whatever that thing is, sister, get over that fear, get over that, anxiety, and put yourself out there. Do it scared, do it messy, because somebody is sitting there 2 steps behind you, 3 steps behind you, needing what you have.
Exactly.
And every night that you go to sleep on it, you're depriving somebody of their breakthrough or their blessing, much less your own.
You're doing the world a disservice when you don't get that clarity, when you sit behind that fear. And the fear is and the discomfort is so temporary, but we are hardwired to resist that change. We're hardwired to, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
I can't, my entire life, I have sat in a classroom, people have instructed me, I have gone home, I've been told who to be and what to do and blah, blah, blah. Then I go, I get the job, and I have a boss, and now you're trying to do your own thing. And that is such a beautiful thing, to know that you want to start and have your own thing, but you got to follow through on it and see where it takes you and really start to learn and discover, not even rediscover, but discover yourself and who you really are, who you're meant to be. Oh my God, I'm having so much fun with this conversation. Let's just keep talking.
Because because the failure part, that fear of failure is so real, but you can open up any browser and any social media and you see people out here doing stupid stuff and they're making money and they don't have any qualms about it. And really, it's kind of this thing about that spotlight effect, that we feel that everybody is looking at you. But in reality, all of us are scrolling. And when you want to pause long enough to comment, to look a little bit further, but everybody is scrolling. Nobody is really thinking about us that hard.
Yeah.
And your service is not for everybody. So you're just trying to find your people. And when you find your people, they're going to stop. They're going to go to your website. They're going to push purchase. They're going to, and it's okay if you're just starting. I mean, there is somebody that's going to be like, that's when it's like, put out your offer and just say, hey, I'm starting. For the first 5 clients, I'm offering it discounted, or this is what I'm doing, or hey, give me, in exchange for your feedback, I'm going to feature you on this. There is a way to kind of get over that hump and to just start and to kind of stay committed and to tweak and evolve. Don't walk away from it. That's the worst thing to do, is that once you do something and you get feedback, even if it's negative, that's not when you abandon it. That's when you go back into the laboratory and basically be like, okay, let me add a little bit more of this. Let me take this away. Let me get on the phone and call somebody and basically be like, do research. Hey, I've got this idea, but it's falling flat. Can you help me? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? What should I change? Ask somebody.
Yeah. What do you want to see? Yeah. And that's
we
also
feel like we have to do it all ourselves.
Right.
We don't.
Yes. And there's also a bit of ego in there too, right? Especially when we come in as coaches. Well, I know this thing and this is how I'm going to guide people through it. But how do they want to learn from you? What do they want to see from you so that you can create the perfect offer for them? So doing that research, asking that question, going back to them would really, really help with that as well. Oh my goodness. Lynn, this is a nice segue, right? Because everything you're saying, your clients, your audience, everyone is so fortunate to have you in their orbit. On that note, what do you have going on? What do you have coming up? What should people be looking out for from Lynne Stokes?
Well, a couple of things. I recently launched my monthly newsletter, Quench newsletter.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I encourage everybody to get, a monthly dose of Lynn that way, Quench newsletter. And my signature program, I have a 12-week brand basics blueprint where I take people through that framework where we work together to figure out your goals, to get clarity on what your big 1, 2, 3 items are, consistency, commitment, and confidence. And we work on all of those so that at the end of those 12 weeks, that 90-day, 3-month time frame, you feeling really good about what it is in building your personal brand or building your business brand. You can find out all about these on my website, lynnestokes.com, Lynne, Stokes.com, and follow me on the socials at the Lynne Stokes. That's where everything is. But yeah, my 12-week program, I'd love to work with people in that manner to really kind of dissect those pieces because like we said, you've got to do the homework. I think another thing is that people kind of have an idea and then they want to jump out there. But there is a lot of work of the brand basics, as I call them, that if you can do that, then that sets you up and that's the foundation for building your story, your brand story. And it really does give you the confidence that you can go out and say, hey, my name is Lynn. I'm an accountant who bakes on the weekends and just bought a house and I'm redoing the house. Come share this journey with me. And I mean, it rolls off your tongue and people are like, ooh, that's interesting. And that's the other beauty of being a multi-hyphenate. You can attract more people because people are like, wow, because it's these connections and these things that don't go together, but you're the glue that brings them together.
Yeah.
How many baking accountants do you know? I was like, I'd follow that person. I might not be interested in your accounting, but I'm interested in your baking.
Yeah, yeah.
I just bought a house. I'm interested in your DIY. Or I'm an accountant and I'm not really interested in your baking or whatever, but I'm the accountant that this weekend somebody's like, do you know anybody who bakes? Yeah, I know somebody who bakes. Why don't you follow her? So there's just something about showing those different sides of you that I think is so beneficial because people do business with folks that they know, like, and trust. And the more that they know about you and trust, then the more that those are those connecting points that you never know that, oh, yeah, she's interesting and she's different and she's detail oriented and I can trust her and trust that whatever it is that she's doing, it's going to be first class. That's the kind of person that I want to follow.
Yeah, for sure. Yes. And, this is a perfect time to ask because before I let any of my guests go, I've been doing this since I started this podcast and I'm not going to stop now, is asking you for a nugget to share with the audience. Do you have something to leave the audience with today?
Yes. One thing, and I almost have to remind myself daily.
Okay.
Comparison is the thief of joy. That is the one thing that I love it because that's how we started this conversation. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. You've got your journey. You are on your road and there is somebody that needs what you have. One other thing I would add, it's not too late. You're not too old. There is still time for you to go and not just, it's finally time to start achieving and catching your dreams. We talk about people chasing their dreams.
Yeah.
Not sis. Let's go catch them. And don't compare because your day one is your day one, but time's going to pass anyway. And whenever, if it's a new year and the beginning of the year when you're listening to this, it's like, just think that if you start today, where you might be 1 year from now. I promise you, it'll blow your mind.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much for joining me today, Lynn, and just quenching me and my audience with your wisdom and just sharing your light with me. I am so happy that we were able to connect and do this. And I know this is just the beginning of something, a beautiful blossoming collaboration, more to come. Thank you so much for being here with me today.